So you have a computer, but you're using a stock cooler. Is it worth it to upgrade? Well, you'll definitely get cooler temps, allowing for more overclocking headroom. They may be quieter than a stock cooler, and you probably already know you can go with an all-in-one liquid cooler, or for about $30, you could get a Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo. But if you're considering going cheaper, say $10 or $20, is it worth it? To find out, I went to my local Fry's Electronics and picked up 4 different CPU coolers, ranging from $9 to $20, all from Silenex. And if you're looking for these coolers yourself, I would go to Fry's.com because they appear to be cheaper than from other online retailers. So we got 2 cheaper low-profile models, the 92HA2 and the 100HA2. These both have an unusual circular aluminum fin layout, and be careful because they bend easily. And the smaller $9 model has a 92mm fan, with the larger $12 model has a 100mm green fan. Next, the other 2. These ones are much larger and they may only fit a couple of build aesthetics. The $16 80HA3 with the red 80mm fan, and then the larger $20 92HA3, which has a, you guessed it, a red 92mm fan. Both heatsinks are all copper, and all these fans have a 3-pin PWM header for the motherboard. Let's talk about hardware included. They all come with a cooler, quite obviously, a mounting bracket for LGA LM56 through LM51, as well as LGA 775, if you're using an Intel CPU. If you're using an AMD processor, you won't need this bracket. They will have a baggie of hardware containing 4 white pushpin thingies and 4 black pushpin thingies, as well as complementary thermal paste, ranging from the little ones in little packets to the reusable tubes, which is nice of them. They also have a manual, which isn't that bad. The larger fans will come with an additional 4 rubber thingies that are already on the side with the fan, and those are meant for you to install another fan on the other side, if you so choose. On one side of all 4 boxes, we see a list of ratings in various categories, like cooling performance, dimensions and case compatibility, noise level, and ease of installation. And of course, for their own ratings and their made-up categories, they'll give themselves good ratings. And these are compared to what? What are these compared to? Because even their $9 cooler looks pretty high up on the charts. And furthermore, both of the bigger ones share the same scores. What if you put a water cooler scores through this? Because they're not great coolers, because you can't get much worse than stock. So let's go through these real quick and I'll give you what their actual scores are based on my opinion. Cooling performance. I give them a 4, 4.5, 5, and 5.5 respectively, because I'm basing this between a stock cooler and my H105 from Corsair. I do see a couple degree improvements as you go up each cooler, and a stock speeds with the 92HA3, it was 9 degrees cooler under load than a stock Intel cooler, however it was 11 degrees hotter than the H105, which I'd probably give an 8 in terms of cooling performance, when liquid nitrogen is out of the equation. While I'm talking about temps, to get them I use Arctic Silver thermal compound, and then after booting up the computer I let it run a while until I found my idle temp, and then I ran Cinebench to get my max. And in my experience, they actually get a lot hotter on Cinebench than on IDA 64. I tested each cooler at 3 GHz to represent a cooler running processor, then at my processor's stock speeds at 3.4 GHz, which turbos to 3.8, and lastly 4 GHz to represent a hotter running processor. However, it's a totally different story if you go with AMD. You'll probably get 90 degrees still, just like the stock cooler. Dimensions and compatibility. Now these are tricky. Yeah, sure, they're quite small, and I'm sure they'll fit in most cases unless you're trying to put the bigger ones into a Silverstone RVZ02 or a Fractal Design Node 202. But in terms of dimensions, in my experience, it's bad. My motherboard was too good for the bigger coolers. My motherboard has 2 big freaking heat sinks for them to fit, so I had to go back to Fry's and get the last LGA 1150 motherboard they had to fit the damn thing. And for $70, which was overpriced for this motherboard, and I probably won't even be able to return it because I left the receipt in another city. Rip me. The little coolers just barely fit, so I'll give them an 8 in this category, and I hate the mounting, and if they were improved, that'd be perfect. But they do have a small size, enough to fit in HTPCs. However, the other 2 do not deserve the rating they gave themselves. I give it a 4 in terms of compatibility. Sure, they will fit in most PCs, but not where the motherboards have large heat sinks. Some will not fit without permanently damaging or scraping the metal. Noise level. Here's a sound test for all 4 coolers as well as an ambient noise. Now, I've definitely heard louder fans, but I'd probably say 7 is more reasonable. And the 100 HA2 was probably broken, and I'm pretty sure it was already returned when I bought it. The fan was always going at full 2400 RPM, even when going into my UEFI and trying to change it manually. However, the other ones did not have this issue. Lastly, ease of installation. Installing these is a bitch, because I've already mentioned my issue with them. They all had the same bracket to install. You simply put the white things through the 4 corners of the bracket that sits on top of the 4 mounting holes on the motherboard, then the black pins go through there to secure it. Then you take the cooler, which is where it gets hard. When mounting, you have to apply a good amount of pressure, and I was super worried I was going to break it, or permanently bend the metal. The cooler is usually my least favorite part of building a computer, and this sealed it. A solid 3 is my rating. So there, Silonex. That's what I think of your ratings. Cooling performance is mediocre. They're short enough to fit in most cases, but the mounting is too wide, especially in my scenario, and the noise is fine, and the installation sucks. Your coolers are cheap, however, so the value is there. The cheapest one, the 92 HA2, is just as cheap as the Intel stock cooler that can be found on eBay, but its performance is pretty much identical. The 92 HA3 really isn't that bad of a cooler for $20, and it's a good size. I wouldn't recommend these unless your stock cooler killed itself, like mine have, by the cables getting too close to the blades. Or you could have just not have a stock cooler for any reason. The larger $16 and $20 models can be upgrades for the stock cooler, but if you're looking for an actual good upgrade, please consider the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo for $30. I have used it in the past, and I couldn't get temps because I don't have mine on me at the moment, unfortunately, but I would choose that over any of the coolers I showed you here today. So thank you guys for watching.
These all literally say it's compatible with an Intel Core i9 processor. That's really cute.